But tell me about this messed up kid. Why was he stalking? Why were you stalking them? Why were you beating on their trailer and walking around their trailer? Because obviously it wasn't your first time on the property.
I went on his property once and didn't go back until I would say a week or so.
At 16 years old, he did escape from Angola, which was, I don't know what I would do at 16 years old back in the 1970s if I was in Angola, but he saw an opportunity and he did leave and led a productive life while he was gone.
And he did leave a productive life in Illinois for almost 10 years before he was caught and extradited back to Louisiana to face his life sentence. Now, how he got caught? Pretty bizarre. He was applying to be a police officer. It was through that application process that they pulled his thumbprint. And yeah, he came back as a wanted man. That's just totally out there for me. So sent back to Angola to finish his life sentence, but now up for parole because of specific acts that had recently been passed in the state of Louisiana. Now, some of you might remember this man. You might remember this hearing, and that is because we played it several years ago when it first aired. The reason that we're playing it now is because, well, he is coming back. But before we watch his updated hearing, we will do my favorite thing and take a flashback to the past to his original hearing. Then I will read your comments, what you thought about the case before we come back to the present day. Now, with that, let's jump in.
Mr. Jenkins is a second felony offender, 67 years old. By my calculation, he's been incarcerated at Angola for 41, 42 years.
Yes, sir.
He's here today under Act 544, and he's sentenced to life and has no eligibility for good time. Mr. Jenkins was first incarcerated in July of 1971. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And when did you arrive at Louisiana State Penitentiary?
March 3rd, 1972.
And after 175 days at Angola, you escaped. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were AWOL, or you?
I apologize for that.
Sir, I didn't ask you to apologize. And you absconded to Illinois, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long were you in Illinois?
About 9.5 years.
Okay. And in that 9.5 years, you got married, you had
Yes, sir.
3 children, and you were employed, and then you applied to be a police officer, or you impersonated a police officer, you were arrested, and they found out Louisiana had a warrant for your arrest. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long did you serve in Illinois before you returned to Louisiana?
How long was I employed?
No, how long you were convicted of impersonating a police officer. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long did you serve? Were you incarcerated in Illinois?
No time at all. I
I read that you were incarcerated for 1 year.
I was on a work release.
You were on work release in
Yes, sir.
Illinois?
Yes, sir.
why weren't you immediately returned to Louisiana when you were arrested?
I have no idea about that part. They picked me up on a Sunday, and I was immediately taken to the magistrate of Illinois, and she bailed me back over to Louisiana to be extradited back to Louisiana. I fought extradition for 90 days.
Okay, so how long between the time you were arrested in Illinois and when were you returned to Louisiana?
I'll say, as I said, about 90 days, something like that.
My records reflect that it was a year. That's not important. So tell me exactly what you were doing in Illinois.
Working and raising a family, mostly working.
You were a convicted murderer, and you had. Why would you apply to be a police officer?
Needing more money because of the standard of living. I wasn't making enough, and
Thank you. Tell me about the programs that you completed since you returned to Louisiana in 1983?
yes, sir. Anger management, 100 hours, pre-release. Excuse me for a moment.
Okay. My records show that you completed 100 hours pre-release, anger management, and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other program?
Yes, thinking for a change.
Mr. Jenkins, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Jenkins, we've already mentioned Thank You for Change, 100 hours pre-release, anger management. Are there any other programs? Mr. Jenkins, we don't have time to go through a binder. Tell me what kind of programs you completed.
Maintenance mechanic at Tractor Repair and
Maintenance and repair,
maintenance and repair
on the job
at,
training.
at Camp C, on the job training.
Okay, Mr. Jenkins, those are vocational programs. I want to know what type of rehabilitative programs that you completed other than 100 hours pre-release, anger management, Thank You for a Change.
Just going to church service and participating.
That's all the programs that you completed.
Yes.
First-time programs and 42 years of incarceration.
That's it.
No victim awareness,
Yes.
no Malachi dads.
No.
Why? Why have you availed yourself to additional programs so that you can rehabilitate yourself?
At the time, I was going to each one at a time and working at the same time on my job.
Now, just inform me that you have overwhelming express opposition to your early release. You have opposition from the entire legal community in Tangible Hall and adjacent parishes. You have opposition from the DA's office. You have opposition from the sheriff's office. You have opposition from the judge. Also, there's opposition from Randy Seal of Washington Parish, who is a sheriff, and he written a letter on behalf of the citizens of Washington Parish vehemently opposed to your early release. We have the opposition from East and West Louisiana Parish Sheriff's Office and the Mayor's Office in Norwood, Louisiana. We have overwhelming opposition from the victim's family, Edward Eddie Crass. We have over 10 letters from children, grandchildren, siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, in-laws, friends, and the community at large in the adjacent parishes. We also have a letter from a grandson, Edward Crass. He is the son of Jack Crass Sr., who would like to be here to testify, but he has a medical He has a medical procedure today, and he cannot be here, but he's asking this board to relate to you that he is vehemently opposed to early release. Why haven't you taken any program in the last 4 years of your incarceration? According to my records, you have not taken anything since 2019. Can you tell me why?
I was enrolled in school, GED school, and
Okay, great. You're working on your GED. Tell us about that.
I wasn't making no progress from 2016 to, I guess, up into 2020, 22, when the pandemic hit and things were shut down. And I'm still going.
And so you're working on your GED. At which level are you on now?
The lower scale. I don't come up near a high set.
Yeah. Now, question, Mr. Jenkins, are you in school full time?
No. In the evening,
Okay.
from 1:30, or I should say 12:30 to 3 before count time.
You continue to work. I like to see you get that high set because it's very important as far as your opportunity for employment if and when you're released. Mr. Jenkins, I didn't see a disciplinary report in my report. How many disciplinary write-ups have you had in the last 42 years?
19.
Okay, what was your last disciplinary write-up?
2008.
And what was that for?
It's a 30W. Sorry that it happened, and I paid restitution for it.
Okay, now 30W is inappropriate behavior. So tell me what the behavior was.
I put an X-Acto knife in my mouth, and when I was shaken down, the officer seen it in my mouth.
Okay. Were you injured?
No, sir.
Tell me what is your What is your current work assignment?
Repair lawnmowers, weed eaters, and chainsaws, whatever, small engine that they give me to do.
So you are certified in four-stroke engines?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about drugs and alcohol. Have you ever been addicted to illegal drugs or alcohol?
No, sir.
Never smoked marijuana?
No, sir.
Never drink alcohol?
No, sir.
Tell me about your transition plan with the Louisiana Parole Project.
I plan on, when I get there, I plan on, they told me that they have at Parole Project, they have a little lawnmower shop, and they broke down. So I'll start there when I'm released to them. They will come and pick me up as well.
Now, Mr. Jenkins, is this a long-term transition plan or is this an initial transition plan? What is your permanent transition plan?
Plan on open a business in small engine repair,
Where?
and preferably in the Baton Rouge area, where a lot of breakdowns occur during grass season and during the winter time.
I'm very familiar with that. Ms. Jenkins, tell me why this panel should vote to release you before you scheduled to, before you have a life sentence, so why should we release you early?
I've shown a demonstration of rehabilitation, and I'm sorry that this whole matter occurred. When released, I won't have no trouble sustaining myself in society. In fact, I'll be productive in more areas that I even think about, because I like to go to church, and I participate in all sort of church work. So,
Jenkins,
yes, sir.
tell us exactly why you're incarcerated.
Why am I incarcerated?
Yes, tell me why you're incarcerated. What did you do?
I killed a man crossing his property without permission, and a gunfight occurred, and Mr. Trash was hit, and I'm sorry that.
Jenkins,
Yes,
I
sir.
think it's a little bit more than crossing a man's property.
That's what.
Did you break into his trailer?
No, sir.
You weren't, was that the first time you crossed that property?
No, I crossed it. He didn't see me. One time I crossed there. I was going hunting, squirrel hunting, and nobody seen me. It was another time that he seen me, and he started shooting.
And you didn't go on that property to break into his trailer?
No, sir.
One Ambo, one Falco, do you have any comments or observations?
Yes, sir. I can let you know that as far as the heist that he has no notable gains made. He's still on the M level. He's been dropped from the school from the GED class 4 times for medical and excessive absence. And as far as that 30W that he told you about, it did not occur as a knife incident. It was a inappropriate comment that he made to a female officer.
I different from having some contraband.
Sir?
That's a lot different from having some contraband.
Yes, sir, it is. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now we'll hear from Mr. Kerry Meyer.
Yes, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project, here to let this board know that Mr. Jenkins is our client. We are prepared to offer Mr. Jenkins long-term support, help him be connected to all his services, including medical and other services. We'll help him find over time, as he gets connected to those services, long-term permanent housing. Mr. Jenkins was 15 years old when he committed this crime. He except for his GED, lack of GED, he would be eligible under Act 277. Instead, he is here under Act 544 because he's also qualifies as a 10-6 lifer. At 16 years old, he did escape from Angola, which was, I don't know what I would do at 16 years old back in the 1970s if I was in Angola, but he saw an opportunity and he did leave. And led a productive life while he was gone, with no incidences. Since he's returned to Angola, he's also been productive. And he's a Class A trustee. He has had very few incidences of disciplinary actions. He's been practically a model inmate. He's got a learning disability, which is one of the reasons he has documented learning disability, which one of the reasons he still struggles to get his GED. But he does have a skill. He does have this talent in engine repair, and we are prepared to help him find employment and find long-term housing. So we just ask this board to consider this in granting his parole today.
All right, thank you. All right, now we'll hear from Ms. Beverly Ann Trask. You make your 3-minute statement.
I'm Beverly Jones, and I am the youngest of the 3 children, Eddie and James Jones. I'm here to speak on behalf of generation for the Eddie Jones family. I am appreciative of this opportunity to speak before you. We have always, since 1994, appeared at these various clemency or pardoning hearings. We've always appeared in person, and we are here today in person to show support to my father, my mother Jean Charles, and my brother Jack Charles. On behalf of my family, I want to make a plea, a strong, heartfelt plea not to grant parole for LEROY Jenkins. And we do this not out of revenge. We don't do it because of hate. We do it because we thought, we believe that our society and our justice system, we thought that this life sentence was the appropriate action in one person takes another person's life. At the time of his death, I was 22 years old. I'm now 74. And I value every breath I take. I think human life is very precious. And it's unimaginable we could have someone who can take another person's life. When we first met as a family to plan what we were going to do with the original date, which was December 14th of 2022, I didn't want to I feel it's a victim. I feel like my mother and father were the victims. And I quickly learned from my family. They said, my niece, which is actually here now, I have children. She's 50 years old. At the time my grandfather was, my dad's dead. They were 4 years old. They heard the stories of a man with a stocking over his head. He come on the property and just shoot Papa's grass. They killed Papa's grass. They saw father and my brother's anguish, the tears. They couldn't believe this happened. My mother and father were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were in the same place, their home. At the time of the killing in 1971, my nephew was 8 years old. He wanted very badly to be here today. He's now close to 60 years old, and he used to play on that property all the time. And he would have been there the day of the shooting, but his parents said, "No, Jack, you got to come and coach placing your other grandkids." He often thinks, what would have happened to me had mother and grandpa had to deal with it? He could have lost his life too. He said, every time I leave from my house, I look around to make certain that nobody's around. My mother and father were out there, they didn't have those where you can move cell phones out. You're living home. So they, excuse me. I truly picked it back on track of the fear that I gained from these children who have given me strength to say this. I repeat the fear of getting numerous. I think this is the 7th, 8th in the world of hard that I've been to. I've been to Angola. I've been in the same room with LEROY and JENKINS. And when I was there, I never saw any grief. I never saw any remorse over the years. There were times, and very recently, in 2013, there was angst. I'm not saying violence, but there was angst. It was as though the accusations as existed here that my father shot again. What father to do? I once again, the real board is trying to be helpful. But at the same time, I've also been told that sometimes they folks with me and see what to say. And I'm really difficult to believe that that can be the case. Here, about the act of rehabilitation. He simply wants to get out of prison. I mentioned also there have been numerous proceedings that have taken place. That are not hearings. The most recently was May 28th of 2021. That was not a hearing, but it was a court case. I got these documentations for Britain, Louisiana, but the court. I try to keep abreast of what is going on. At that particular time, he and his lawyer wanted a lessening of sentences, and wanted a proof of innocence. And this one we then go to my mother's letter. And this was written in 1984. I was with my mother at the clemency hearing, and he would return from that position to Chicago back to Louisiana. My mother read this. She was a witness. And she spoke for truth.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead and wrap up. Let's go ahead and wrap up.
I get the escape from prison. The documentation for proceedings in 1988 that was led by Gary Gazelle, and he was that particular. He made some accusation that he was using the prison. He thought he was supposed to be used. That there, but he doesn't have any record. I numerous times to get accounts from him over the regard to this escape. I go down to this attachment A for this original document written by the fact. There's someone here that recognized what we got. The name of the escape. My brother, they're not believing that after 175 days. All throughout the 90s, my brother would continue to go to see what was being done at the state of Louisiana. The day that he escaped, there was no closed box, no state police was notified. It was very close to Christmas, so that it's well, my brother even knew there were 2 guards working for 40 inmates. He said his dad and one area of the name of the state. I'm devastated. My brother, it was out of stress. He was 42 years old. I go back to this letter and I want to thank you for because this is the only thing that I have. I've been looking at this letter for 35 plus years. This is my mother. There, she's the first one student teacher and she wrote it through. She lists here that she said there was a man who was stomping over his head down the beach. She came up and impacted with the gun pointed at my pocket. He said, my husband said, what do you want? You get to sit, I need money or whatever. And he would give it to him. We have it, he just has your social security. My aunt Gladys, who is begging, his mother had seen me one day to walk through. So he was walking my hand with a jack bag. He made his way out there. He was made it. He was playing, he was cremated and stopping on the roof. I would stop saying. It's just one piece. Speech. He's my number one. All of their DNA's here. We've been through. Victims do now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you so much. Mr. Quiller, would you like to make a statement?
Good morning. My name is Sam DeQuilla. I'm the district attorney for East and West Louisiana here. Although I was not the district attorney when this murder occurred, I am the district attorney for East and West Louisiana here since 2003. I'm here today on behalf of the victims of this case. Mr. Myers could attest to the compassion that our office has written that he can personally attest to that. He knows our office. He knows the feelings of our office when it comes to the inmates. He knows compassion that we have the victims of crime. Mr. Eddie Trask lost his life July 3rd, 1971. He's not here. Mr. Jenkins is here. He's 67 years old. He served 41 years in prison. And I don't really need to relate that to you. You decided it. And we're here today to determine whether he can be paroled for a good time. I have compassion for the victims. The victims have contacted our office. They've expressed their interest that they put the release of Mr. Jenkins. Our office stands behind them. That's what we did. That's the criminal justice system. We told them, my predecessor told them when he was incarcerated that he would be serving life in prison. It is difficult for me to face them and tell them at this time he may be parole eligible, he may be paroled. It's very difficult for me to understand. The victim, speaking on behalf of the victim, I have compassion for him. Mr. Jenkins, I don't have a lot of compassion for him. He made a decision July 3rd, 1971 to kill Mr. Trask. He did that. He served 175 days in prison. He escaped. And he lived a life. He lived a life outside of Louisiana for roughly 9.5 years. He was employed. He was a good member of society. He had children. He lived his life. Mr. Trask was not able to live his life. I have no compassion for him. He stated he attended some programs, rehabilitational programs. I didn't hear very many rehabilitational programs that he attended. Anger management. Anger management. What is that? He dropped out of the program without the out of 4 times. He had quite a few write-ups. I had no compassion for him. He made a decision that he has consequences that he has to suffer for that. He knew what the consequences were. He knew the consequences, and he escaped into the 9.5 years. It is very difficult to tell the family we're going to jail for life, he escaped. We're gonna just let him back now because he's 67 years old, and we're just gonna let him out. I have difficulty understanding that, he agrees with that. I plead this board to keep Mr. Jenkins incarcerated. If you decide to let him out, if you decide to grant him parole eligibility, I think that you ought to at least wait 9.5 years before you do that. Because he was out as a free man for 9.5 years. I think it's premature at this time for the board to even consider that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comment. All right, we'll hear from Mr. Jenkins, and then Ms. Claire, you can wrap up at the end. Like to make a statement, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, sir. I apologize to the Trask family, each and every one of them. And I hate that they have hard feelings for me, but I can understand it. I probably would have the same feelings if that had happened to my dad. It was a moment that I couldn't think from right and wrong. I acted on my emotions, and when I was pushed in a corner, looked like I just couldn't control myself. I'm different now, and I believe that I can be productive in society without trouble with the justice system. In fact, I know I could, and I've proven that. So, quick and short, in a nutshell, I'm sorry that I brought this about. I wish it had never happened. If I could turn things around, I would. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Claire, would you like to wrap?
I would. Before I make a few comments, I would like for Mr. Jenkins to clarify a point that we talked about earlier with his prior discipline record. Mr. Jenkins, were you confused about the final incident on your write-up report when you were explaining what happened that led to the incident?
Yes, I believe I did.
Yeah, would you like to clarify for the board why you were confused and what happened?
That may have occurred on 2007, but the incident, I have to swap it around now. That incident at W 30W, I recall that, but I thought the first one came before, and I was confused about that.
And we appreciate the warden pointing that out, that we were confused as to which was the last discipline write-up, and we wanted to clarify for the board that Mr. Jenkins acknowledges that and takes responsibility for that, and he doesn't dispute that that was the final write-up.
All right, thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you. My name is Claire. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Jenkins. We're here today because Mr. Jenkins, LEROY Jenkins, is asking to be released on parole. He's eligible for parole under Act 544. The legislature in Louisiana has made a policy decision, and it is their intent that people like LEROY, people who committed crimes before 1972, who pled guilty to those crimes, and who are now, quite frankly, old men, be released or eligible for parole. He meets that criteria. Additionally, Mr. LEROY Jenkins is a juvenile lifer. He's not eligible for release under the juvenile lifer statutes, but he meets the Supreme Court guidance and standards on release for juveniles. And when we're looking at juvenile lifers, we look at their demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation. I've included in our briefing a photograph of LEROY that is his mugshot. If you've had a chance to review it, you'll see he was a young man in that picture. He no longer presents as that person today. You can see the physical changes that LEROY has undergone since 1971. What we cannot see with our eyes this morning are the changes that have gone on inside LEROY's brain of growth, maturity, changes that time gives us. So we have seen the changes in LEROY physically and mentally. He is no longer a young 15-year-old man. How do we know that he is no longer the 15-year-old that committed this crime in 1971? Well, we can listen to what LEROY has told us, both before today and today. He's written a letter, which I've included in the parole packet, and I'm going to read several quotes from it. LEROY writes, Mr. Trask's life was taken in an uncontrolled moment by a misguided teenager that had no control over his emotions. I've included in the parole packet doctor's notes that show Mr. Jenkins has learning handicaps and is of low intelligence. That, combined with what we know about juveniles, contributed to where Mr. Jenkins, we find ourselves today. But Mr. Jenkins is no longer that person. Again, he writes, I am not that reckless and irresponsible juvenile that I was back then. I've grown to know that a person must put foolish and unlearned things behind them and strive for a better outlook on life. I am no longer that reckless and unstable boy. I have matured completely. I can't be caught up like this, never again. Mr. LEROY has told us that he is no longer that person. But we have more. We can look at his conduct. His assessments from the prison are low risk. He has not had a disciplinary write-up since 2008. He is a trustee, and he has been a trustee for years. He participates actively in religion classes. He has continued to pursue his GED despite learning handicaps. He does continue to do that. He has engaged in programming while he continues to work and work towards his GED. He has learned valuable technical and job skills. He is a small engine mechanic, and he's ready to put those skills to use by getting employment. Not only has he learned technical skills, but he has gained through life skills, through the prison and meeting other inmates working here, emotional intelligence skills that he did not have when he was 15 years old. He is able and ready to implement those skills to live in the community. He has a release plan. We heard from Mr. Myers. The Parole Project is ready and able to take Mr. LEROY on, to work with him, to spend a month. Mr. Myers and I spoke yesterday, again, at length about LEROY. The first month of Mr. LEROY's release will be spent in intense programming to prepare LEROY to the ways of the world today in 2023. We know that it is very different than when he went into prison in 1971 and has remained since the 80s for 41 years. It is a different life. The Parole Project is ready to set Mr. LEROY up with housing, to work with him to get his driver's license, his Social Security, his paperwork, his SSI, things that he is eligible for to become a member of the community. The final
wrap up now.
The final comments I have to make this morning are on a personal level. I've represented Mr. Jenkins for 10 years. He's the first client that I ever had, and he has been a very patient and trusting client. But he's not only been a client, he has been a friend of mine for 10 years since I have met him. From knowing LEROY, I know that he is trustworthy, he is kind, he has integrity, he is honest, he has patience, empathy, compassion, he is hardworking, and he has commitment. Those traits in LEROY, we've spent a lot of time this morning talking about how LEROY has changed over the years. Those are fundamental to LEROY Jenkins as a person, as who he is as a person. Those traits have not wavered. Those traits have not changed. I have not seen any of those differences waver or seek to manipulate. Those are core to LEROY Jenkins, and those are the indicators of Mr. Jenkins' success once he is released. So we again ask you to grant Mr. Jenkins parole this morning. He is eligible. He under Act 544. He has demonstrated that he is mature. He has demonstrated that he has rehabilitated himself, that he is no longer the 15-year-old that he was in 1971.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comment. The panel prepared to vote?
Yes,
Mr. Roche?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jenkins. I'm quite a bit older than you,
Yes, sir.
and I think you remember exactly what happened on that day and the day before, because you were seen on that property the day before. And you went back with a stolen 35 caliber rifle. And you were behind the trailer, and when Mr. Cash came, you shot him. And you told me this morning that you were walking across his property to go to another area, and you were only walking across his property. Why did you have a 25 caliber rifle in your possession if you didn't intend to use it? When I asked you what happened in Chicago, my records and your criminal record showed that you were convicted of impersonating a police officer and was sentenced to 1 year in Illinois DOC. Your criminal record shows that. You were not truthful. You didn't take responsibility for what you did in July of 1971. There's a lack of rehabilitative program. I only see anger management, $100 fee relief, and thinking for a change. You need additional programs. You need victim awareness. You need moral compass. You need more programs. You have adamant express opposition from the entire victim's family. You have opposition from the legal community in 4 different parishes: East Louisiana, West Louisiana, Washington, and Tangible Hall. The judge, the DA's office, the sheriff's offices in those parishes are in opposition. And basically, I didn't think you took full responsibility for what you did back in 1971. Therefore, I'm going to deny your request based on what I've just mentioned.
Ms. Renata?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jenkins, I agree with Mr. Roche. I don't believe you've been forthcoming with us today. I don't think you told us the truth. In out of respect for your attorney, there's no doubt he's eligible for parole under the act that you mentioned. And we do note that he was a juvenile when he committed this crime. And we have been well trained in the guidance provided by the Supreme Court on what we are to look for and given them a meaningful opportunity for parole consideration. However, in this case, because he hasn't been truthful with what happened, it was not impetuous activity on his part. He planned this. I don't see that he has the demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation that is required. For those reasons and for the opposition that's been expressed here today, my vote is to deny parole.
A few votes to deny your parole. I'm also going to deny your parole for the same reasons as stated. Law enforcement officer, victim opposition needs more programming. This work didn't come aboard and forthcoming. So 3 votes to deny today. Your parole's been denied. Good luck to you. It's 9:29. We'll adjourn it. Who's got a statement of interest? Thank you.
All right, and it was a denial. And what I'm going to do is read your comments because, again, we played this a couple of years ago. I know like 80% of you hadn't seen it because that's the YouTube algorithm for you. Most of you won't see the majority of the hearings that I upload, even though I upload daily, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes also Friday and Saturday. But it is what it is. The algorithm will continue to do its thing. But reading the comments is something that I really enjoy doing. And if you want me to continue doing it, then let me know in the comment section. Personally, I felt all sorts of ways about this hearing. I remember when I first watched it, I felt so much empathy for him, towards him. And a lot of it also had to do is that it just couldn't hear what the victims were saying. Now, I'll tell you in advance that in his upcoming hearing now that we're about to cover, you do hear the victims. And man, it's hard to, it is painful. It is so painful to listen to. But let's just start off with the comments. Now, of course, I sort it by top comments, but YouTube's features are just so really unexplainably broken. They just don't work. Like it should show top comments, but it doesn't. There's no way that 5 likes is top comments. So anyways, I'll have to move around because it's a broken, here we go. All right, we'll get to 58. I liked his attorney, and I think his rejections was already predetermined by the way the old judge treated him in the top let go. I actually did not like his attorney. She was driving me nuts. She kept like whispering things and writing things. And it's like, you would think either spend the time preparing your client or, don't go in there and try doing that crap. And I don't know. That was just my takeaway. It seems like they never truly do prepare their clients. Mr. Roche is angry and aggressive to the inmates in a lot of cases. It's time for him to retire. I totally disagree. I love Mr. Noe Roche. It's not angry and aggressive, in my opinion. He's more just, he cuts to the chase. I feel the same way about Mr. Roche. Took the personal, and you can hear in his bias, in his tone, and in his demeanor. What do you mean in his bias? You can hear his bias. Bias for what? I want to know. What is your point? What bias? Roche was very nasty to him. I think they were pissed about the lawyer being late, and it took it out on him. Oh yeah, I don't know if I edited that part out with you, but the lawyer was incredibly late. I agree with you to read all the letters from the victim's family and decided to be hateful and unmerciful to this poor man who did something stupid at 15 but paid for it 40 plus years in prison. This is ridiculous. They showed other people with more similar crime sentences, but why not him? I mean, I hear you. It is the crazy thing. He was 15 when he did this crime, and he escaped and lived a good life. And by the way, Angola, I just did a search. I can read it to you real quick. Angola in the 1970s, if you want to get an idea. And I have a book I read on Angola, but here's a brief overview of what that 15-year-old would have been experiencing. I'm going to read it to you without the screen share. Angola in the 1970s was widely regarded as one of the harshest prisons in the United States, and its reputation was well earned. Here's a clear picture of what it was like during that era. Extremely violent in the 1970s, often described as closed plantations run by inmates. Guards were few, and much day-to-day control were exercised by stronger prisoners. And by the way, a lot of the guards were prisoners. Yeah, the guards were prisoners, and they even had guns. High rates of SA and murder, especially of younger and weaker inmates, was rampant and largely unchecked. Minimal oversight, federal intervention had not yet meaningfully improved the conditions. So a 15-year-old waking up in that hellhole. I mean, I think it's great that he escaped, and then he seemed to grow in a family and lived a great life. But why would he want to become a police officer? Is it pure hubris? Is it just not, or is there something more? Should we be like, is there something else going on that would make him want to be a policeman? He says just for more money. It's like, really? I don't know. They're just showing, yeah, I mean, this is true. This pisses me off so bad. 15 years old. Where's the mercy and humanity for the parole man? There's a lot of people are feeling this way about him. I got to tell you, distaste from early. Wow. Mr. Roche is in a tough one. A few occasions, his decisions have surprised me. I guess it's just the other side that woke up on this particular day. They knew they were not going to let this man out before this hearing. Aw, come on. This man was freaking 16. That's crazy. They should have let him out. That's the overall consensus. And let's see if the second hearing changes your mind. I know that this is how I felt the same way when I first watched this. It really pissed me off. He knows he was 16, not 6. It's proven that at age your brain is still developing. Please make what you're saying make sense. What? Go, man. He's been gone 60 years. Roche is being rude and expect this man to remember things from so long ago. I've never seen him so rude before. I guess he was rude. I guess that's the consensus. Mr. Roche should be paroled from the parole board now. How old is he? 210. I think he was closer to 260 in this hearing. But I mean, I know so much of us, Roche has grown on so much of us have loved him. It is hard to read these mean comments about him. 41 years, good Lord, that's a long time. It is just me. Which state are you in right now? Racism is still alive. We just witnessed that. Well, I hope all of you who are if you're just wondering, Mr. Roche is black. So I have seen people who would accuse Mr. Roche of being racist. I always thought that was interesting because I think they assumed he was white. He's not. Yup, movie worthy story. I was in a gunfight and since asked previously, I obviously have great marksmanship skills. That's why I applied to be a police officer. Thank you, Mandoo, for always trying to link new articles and other publications to these videos and provide a bigger picture. You're welcome. I do have, it's Addie. Addie used to be a regular every day. Addie was here. Now we never see Addie, but it looks like Addie's still a member. Addie, show yourself. We miss you. I will go over the appeals of the information. There's really not much to go over. In a nutshell, he did go there with a gun, and it wasn't to go squirrel hunting according to the appeal. He went there because he was pissed off at the man, and he went there with a .22 rifle. The other guy had a handgun, and they got into a fight, and the rifle won, of course, and he killed him. And then he stole his car and he drove away. All of this with his wife, his young wife, watching. Now, he didn't kill his wife. That was, a nice thing to do. She was an eyewitness, but he did show up there with a gun, and it wasn't to hunt squirrels. It was to kill him. That's really the bottom line. At least that's the way the courts write it. But let's get more context. I'm trying to screen through and see if there are any more large comments, because as I said, YouTube does not work. They do not sort by top comments. They give you whatever they want to give you. I read about 2 boys who conspired together to kill 1 boy. No, okay. I mean, I don't know what that is. This man would have posed no harm to the community. It cost more money to keep him locked up. It is strange. I mean, he served so much time, and I get it and all those things. And it does make you wonder. It's like, just let him out. But we're going to hear vividly from the victims' families, and that just throws a wrench in it for me. This poor old man has served 3/4 of his life in prison. Oh my God, they're letting younger guys out who've only served 20 to 25 years. I hope he gets a movie made out of his life. Yes, there have been a lot of opposition. Those opposing were probably not born yet, but he committed a murder. Also, this was like in the 70s. People can talk about racism now. Nothing like it was in the early 70s. Let's jump in, guys. Let's go see the next hearing. Let me know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, let's just see what happens. Let's go.
So, Mr. Jenkins, you're classified as a second felony offender. You're currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced, you have a sentencing date in East Feliciana Parish, December of 2013 for first-degree murder. You received a life sentence. Then in West Feliciana Parish in September of 1983, simple escape type 1, you received a 2-year sentence. Your parole eligibility date was June 17th of 2022. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Right. Ms. Freeman?
Okay, all right, Mr. Jenkins, tell me, what did you do to get yourself put in prison? And a little bit about when you escaped, and then tell me why you think you're ready to get out today.
I went across Mr. Trask's property. And, things didn't go well. So I wound up, shooting him, and it's been gnawing me ever since. I'm very sorry for doing such a thing. And I said that will never happen again.
Why did you go on his property?
Looked like it was intended to be a robbery.
Okay.
I really was trying to search in my mind that I was right about that, but it looked like I couldn't receive it. But that's the way it looked to me. So I shot him, and he fell. His wallet fell on the ground, and I seen it. I went over and grabbed it and took off running. And that's my accountability to doing such a thing. I can say this much: what happened then would never happen again. I was totally out there wrong. God had forgiven me already, but I asked the Trask family to forgive me for trespassing in the first place. If I hadn't went on Mr. Trask's property, things wouldn't have went that way. And young, ignorant, and butt-headed, or whatever you want to call it, that I was. And I wish I could tell the Trask family to forgive me for that. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and I've been really searching to still find an answer. But even now, after all these years, it's even stronger now, just like it was then. It's just a change in faces, I would say. And but the hurt is still there.
He
All
also
right.
asked you why you escaped. Can you speak to why you escaped, the escape?
Oh, okay. They was I was put here when the prison was crazy. Everybody had a knife, and it would best be you better have that knife on you ready. And I said I wasn't gonna stay here. All that was going on, raping, killing, and young. It just threw me to the wolves. So I said, ain't no way I'm gonna stay here. And I I guess it was morning, I think it was. I seen a clear opening, and some heads were turning the other way. I went across that ditch, and there was a guy with me. I didn't want him because I thought he was going to slow me down, but he kept up with me, and I'm not exactly sure how I got to Baton Rouge and catching that bus. It just to New Orleans. It was a remarkable thing that what happened, and today I can't even explain it. The impossible things that went on during that escape, and it looked like it wasn't an escape. The door just opened for me, and I just walked through. I should have never left the prison grounds, knowing that I had a life sentence, but y'all have to forgive me. I just couldn't sit still, and I know I was gonna have to use my knife, because they be those headhunters. They don't. If you're young, they don't care where you come from, who you are. They come to get something, and so I left before that happened.
Okay.
He
How long
asked
were
you
you
what
there before you left?
How old?
How long were you at Angola before you left?
I think it was 1972 or 73. I think it was. Yes, sir.
it was about 10 months, I believe.
Okay, all right.
And then to answer, he asked you a third question, Leroy, that I want to make sure that you address. When you came back in 83, you've been here for almost over 40 years since. Why should they let you out today? Why should you get out?
Okay. I think I have over these. I'm 70 years old, and I didn't realize I was that old. I was thinking I was around late 50s, early 60s, and looked like that's the way I feel about it. But I'm looking to get parole back into society with your blessings. Sorry, I haven't, I've been acting crazy, but this parole committee, I asked them to please give me a parole. In fact, parole me out to the parole project. They have a good record of patients that they have, and I've been connected with them for the past 10 years or so, and each time they come, they always put me on the list, and they have been coaching me, and it's been going good. So I ask you to parole me out to them, to their care, and I believe from that point, as far as a plan to work, I had even went that far, helping them washing cars, even trying to get a job at the hospitals, sweeping up, washing dishes. It doesn't matter to me. I know I still have the stamina in me to do some more work and make a nice living for myself. That's all I have.
All right. Okay, well, let's move on. I'm gonna ask you some more specific questions when we come to the interview part. Mr. Hundley at the Louisiana Parole Project.
Andrew Hundley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing today to confirm to the board that if Leroy is granted parole today, that he would be a client. We've accepted him for our residential reentry program. As Leroy mentioned, we've been seeing him for quite a few years, speaking to him as we do other people who are incarcerated that are parole eligible about what to expect when they come home, and what our program would look like for him. Obviously, because of his age, we would suggest, and because of what his resources are, he would be a long-term client in our program. We would commit for the long term, keeping him in our program, providing him with access to our staff social workers, and he would also be assigned a reentry specialist and peer mentor to work with him, along with our programming and other services. But because of his record over the last several decades, and because of his age, we believe that if he were to be released, he would have no problem with fitting in to our program, transitioning with our assistance, but just confirming he would be a long-term client in our program if he were to be released. And I stand by ready to answer any other questions you may have about his potential reentry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, now we're gonna go to the opposition, and I'm sure Mr. Quilly, you want to go last. That's usually we let the DA go last.
Sounds good.
Okay,
On behalf of 5 generations of the Eddie Trask family, I thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Beverly Trask, and my father, Eddie Trask, was shot and killed by LEROY Jenkins. My mother was ducked under the steering wheel, driving away as she was chased by LEROY Jenkins, waving a gun in his hand. This happened on Saturday, July the 3rd, 1971. That's 54 years ago, going on 55. It seems like after that length of time that things were going to become smooth, but I because Eddie and Gina Trask gave me life. They are the reason I exist. And I would like to tell you what it's like to be a victim. It's life-changing, and it's excruciating to have to go through the number of paroles and different hearings that we have gone through. My father was a very good and honest man. The grandchildren only know of him because they were 4 years old. Jack was 8, so he had a few good memories. But they only know of his death and his killing. And what their brothers, my brother, their fathers, my brothers had to go through these hearings over these years. I'd like to share a story. It's a true story. It was a dream that I had, not recently, several years ago, probably connected to one of these hearings. I had a dream that there was a family gathering, lots of people there. There was food on the table. There was laughter. I walk into a room where there's fewer people, and sitting in a chair is my father. And I was so ecstatic. I said, "Dad, you're alive." And I said, "Where have you been all these years?" And he said to me, he said, "This was all made up. It was a mistake. Dreams have funny ways of helping people." But I woke up and I realized that this was not a dream. It's not a mistake. The actions of LEROY Jenkins, as described by my mother in this 1984 clemency letter, described LEROY Jenkins hiding in a ravine with a stocking over his head and floating gun. He was waiting for them to return from town where my dad had just cashed his Social Security check. And so LEROY Jenkins knew he had money in his pocket. In my mother's letter, she said, my daddy said, "What is it that you want?" It was exactly the same thing he had said 2 days before when LEROY Jenkins was peering into their window on the trail. My daddy says, "What is it you want?" If LEROY Jenkins said, "Give me your money," he would have. I think he would have just given him. But instead, he chose to shoot. He shot him once here and in part. He was a good aim. I don't know best to tell you on behalf of my father, my mother, people that are here today. I earnestly and heartfeltly ask parole not be given to LEROY Jenkins. This is not done out of any kind of hate or revenge. It is simply because this is what my family, my mother thought. Our society and our legal system designated it as a consequence of killing someone. I want to thank the parole board. This is a letter that my mother wrote. She was an eyewitness. She wrote this in 1984 when LEROY Jenkins was brought back after being escaped from prison for 9 years. The only reason he is in prison is not because law officials were looking for him. It was because he applied for a job as a security officer, and he was from fingerprinted, and fingerprints match. That's the only reason he's in prison. I want to thank the parole board because this letter was written by my mother. These are the facts of that day. She was a first grade school teacher, and she wrote the truth. I also want to tell you that because of all the court proceedings that happened, that were in storage unit in Clinton, and bad weather came, and all of those were restored. So there's no records of the truth when LEROY Jenkins actually confessed. So thank you for this, and I appreciate the time and appreciate you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay, next we will go to, Cheryl, I haven't got my board. Cheryl Trask Say.
I'm Cheryl Trask. I am the granddaughter of Edward Trask. And I was just a kid when this happened. But I can remember my parents just grieving and crying and just after the event. And I'll never forget that day. My dad was crying. He kept repeating. And he didn't ask. He didn't ask. He didn't ask for the money. He just shot him. This whole thing was not necessary. He chose to shoot him. He came with a mask, came with a gun. He had all the options to just ask for the money and leave. I don't think that was his intentions. My grandparents had just spent the night at our house the night before because LEROY Jenkins had been prowling around up there and they were afraid to spend the night there. There's a trailer. So this property is like 83 acres. You don't just walk across this house. You have to make an effort. There was banging on the side of the trailer. My grandmother was at the kitchen sink and she saw LEROY Jenkins outside looking in. Just terrified her. She didn't want to go back. So they were afraid to spend the night there. So they came to my house and spent the night and then stalking them. And they even called the sheriff. That didn't do any good. He kept coming back and I don't know why. I don't know why. He wouldn't just leave them alone. He left alone. And then he saw them in town and took advantage. He knew that they were going to be going to the grocery store, so he met him at their house with a mask and a gun. His intentions were obviously to do harm. Because my grandfather asked, what do you want? He didn't ask for the money. His intentions were to harm. And so I would not trust him. He can be manipulative. Be conniving. He makes it sound easy to escape from Angola. It's not easy to escape from Angola. He's conniving, he's manipulative. I wouldn't trust him. We spent our whole life with him out. It was like my childhood. I was just afraid that he would show up again. He was stalking my grandparents. I was afraid that he would come back and stalk us some more. There was just this, I was just raised with this fear and this sadness and this grief that just people had to tell me about my grandfather. So unfortunately, I was very young and I didn't have a lot of memories. I do have some and I cherish them, but people would always come to me and tell me these wonderful stories about my grandfather and how generous he was and how encouraging he was. And I just wish that LEROY had given him a chance to hand over the money. He didn't. And my fear is if he gets out again, I don't trust him. I would not feel safe. Whenever he escaped the first time, he didn't just catch a bus. He held a couple hostage. He left that part out.
Yes.
And he's making it sound easy, but it's not. And
I just don't trust him. I don't trust his intentions. I know in past paroles, he's mentioned about how he's a good Christian man now. That's great. I'm a Christian also, and he's asking for forgiveness. I have really struggled my whole life with forgiveness because this man had a really hard lesson with forgiveness. And I've come to terms. You can forgive, but you still have to suffer the consequences of your actions. Forgiveness doesn't erase what you did. And God can use him in jail. That's wonderful. God can use us wherever we are. It doesn't mean that he needs to be out. I just don't feel safe with this man wandering around anymore.
Okay.
I just
Appreciate it. All right, next we will go to, Jenkins.
I'm a Christian too. Oh, the only thing I can say, I'm not gonna be as eloquent as speakers, these other two ladies, I'm trying to be, but I'm gonna tell you the truth, as I saw it, and I was there from the beginning. First of all, Mr. Trask, Mr. Eddie Trask was an honorable man. And my brother-in-law, Jack Trask, Mr. Eddie was his hero. Mr. Trask didn't have any vices, just like my brother-in-law, probably one of the best men I've ever known. I didn't have any brothers. He was my brother. That's the way he treated me. After Mr. Trask was killed, my brother-in-law was never the same. My brother-in-law was a smart man, but he missed his daddy so much, and he couldn't get it off his mind. Somebody had shot his daddy. He was an honorable man, walked with a cane. He would help anybody. But I noticed the difference. And then years later, on Christmas Eve, LEROY Jenkins escaped. And my brother-in-law was in town and my sister. They lived in Georgia or South Carolina, and I forget when, South Carolina probably. And Christmas Day, me and my brother-in-law started out before daylight and went to different sheriff's substations. There was 4 or 5 of them. They ended up in Angola to see what was being done about catching. My brother-in-law took it hard. My brother-in-law passed away before they caught LEROY Jenkins. So he had to live with the fact that he was escaped and he didn't know where he was and what was happening. I'm not gonna be up here, and I know that I'm not supposed to talk a long time, but I got one thing I want to tell you. I don't think I can go with is my 2 boys. They love Jack. Now, Jack is my brother-in-law. I'm talking about him. He's the one that passed away grieving the whole time about his daddy dying. But my 2 boys love Jack. In fact, my grandson is named after Jack. Well, I was at home, and Mom and Daddy was up there singing about Jack, and he had suddenly become ill. And he passed away, 42 years old. My daddy called me and said, Daddy, Jane, I got bad news. So what is it? He said, Jack just died. So, oh. So Jane and my 2 boys were gone. So I had to break the news to them. My 2 boys loved Jack. And Jack was grieving, y'all, I'm telling you. But when they got home, I set them all down. And I told them that their uncle had passed away. My little boy, he just buried his head. His mom was left. Right. My oldest boy, he locked himself in the back room. I could hear him cry. Wouldn't let me in. Excuse me for crying, but it's so tough. But as tough as it is on me, his grandchildren, his daughter, he suffered way worse than that. It has never stopped. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll hear from the district attorney, Mr. DeQuilla.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. My name is Sam DeQuilla. I'm the district attorney for East and West Feliciana Parish. I would like to thank the board and the committee for allowing me to come make a short presentation to you this morning in opposition to the parole eligibility of Mr. LEROY Jenkins. I know the board committee are familiar with their board policy 7701 POL regarding parole decisions. And I'll go through 1 through 8 of the guidelines just really briefly. First guideline is the nature and consequences of crime. It's a very serious crime. Crime occurred where Mr. Jenkins stalked, shot, looked into robbing Mr. Trask, and he killed him. He went to the penitentiary, he served 10 months, and he was escaping the penitentiary under very violent circumstances. Second, the prior criminal record of Mr. Jenkins. I don't know a lot about his prior criminal record. He was younger when it happened. He probably didn't have a long criminal history at that point, but he did escape from Louisiana State Penitentiary. He did take hostages, and he did live away from the penitentiary for over 9 years. The character and background of him, I really don't know a lot about his character and background. The committee or the board will have a lot more knowledge about his character and background than I would. But I can tell you this, I came here a couple of years ago. The Trask family has been in here numerous times. They've been at every proceeding. They have objected in every way they could. I can tell the last time I was here, seeing Mr. Jenkins, he did not show any remorse at that time. Institutional adjustment. His attitude, his rule violations, I'm not aware of a lot of his rule violations. I didn't do an extensive search about his history in Angola, but I know he's here today to request parole eligibility. I am here today to state on number 5 of the guidelines, and that is the police, judicial, and community attitude toward the inmate, Mr. LEROY Jenkins. Under A, the committee will evaluate and consider information concerning the inmate from community and public officials. That's why I'm here today. And the community's here today. I've spoken to other people in the community, the sheriff, Mr. Talmadge Bunch, he was a past sheriff. Jeff Travis was a past sheriff. Randy McLaughlin was a past sheriff. During my duration as district attorney, I've been district attorney for 23 years in East Feliciana Parish. The factor is given greater weight because the probability that an inmate will succeed on parole is greatly diminished if he will return to a community that has expressed hostility toward him. We are hostile toward him. Parole plan. You got to say he does have a good parole plan. The parole project, I've worked with him in the past. We work with them with individuals need assistance that they are there to help him, but this is not the case to send somebody to the parole project. Program participation, I don't know a lot about his training. It seemed like the last time we were here just a couple of years ago, he didn't have a lot of training. He didn't have a lot of courses that he was taking at Angola. I don't know if he was in the literacy program, but it seemed like he said he was not involved in a lot of programs at that time. I'm sure that's changed now because they build and they learn and they know what to do for the next time, but this is still not a case for any consideration on his program participation. Risk assessment, I think he's a risk. He escaped from prison. He took hostages. He brutally shot and killed somebody for no reason at all. I struggle in my position as district attorney. I want to do the right thing. The right thing in this case is to keep him incarcerated, deny his parole eligibility. We represent the families. The families were told when he was sentenced the first time, life without benefit, parole, probation, or suspension sentence. And when you tell somebody something, that means that's the way it's supposed to be. And I know the legislature comes and they make different rules and they have these different guidelines and rules and parole eligibility and maybe early release and compassion, clemency, and things like that. But we represent the families. And if the family comes to me and says, we strongly oppose this, I'm going to stand by them to the end. That's what we're supposed to do. He was awarded freedom. He received his freedom for 9 years. He was living a whole separate life until he got caught again. And after he got caught again, he's coming before the board and he's asking for consideration because he's 70 years old and I can't hurt anybody else. And, I need to be out. Well, they have consequences for your actions. And he has consequences times 2. He committed 2 crimes. I just ask the board and the committee to show some compassion for the family in this matter who have been grieving. They have lived in fear for 10 years and they just want closure to this. So we are in opposition to the kind of parole eligibility of Mr. Jenkins. Should I answer any questions or?
That's good. Thank you, sir. Okay, first off, Warden, I'm sorry I passed you up, Warden. Ms. Ambo, what you have to tell us about Mr. Jenkins?
I can tell you that Mr. Jenkins has been here a total of 53 years. He's a minimum aid trustee. He's assigned to maintenance. He only had 19 DB reports, his last one being in 2008. He has taken, since the last hearing, he has taken victim awareness letter training, thinking to win life skills. As far as his education level, Mr. Chatelain believes that he's a legitimate candidate for a waiver of his GED requirements due to his age and his inability to complete the TABE test. He's very well mannered and a respectable inmate, said the staff here at LSP.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. How old were you when you committed this crime?
15 years old.
Okay. How is your health? Do you have any health problems?
Yes. I hurt my back some years ago.
Okay.
It's recurring. I walk with a cane now. And,
Okay.
Take a
And, so what was going on in your life at 15 years old? What were you doing? Were you drugging? Were you alcoholic or what? Because it looks like you stole the gun that you used to shoot him with.
right.
So
A kid running wild. That's the only explanation I have. The end result is that I messed around and did the wrong thing. I was using the rifle to hunt with, and I just happened to come through that bit of property, and I came across of it, and Mr. Trans seen me. I took off running. It's just a messed up kid that.
But tell me about this messed up kid. Why was he stalking? Why were you stalking them? Why were you beating on their trailer and walking around their trailer? Because it wasn't your first time on the property.
I went on his property once and didn't go back until I would say a week or so. Maybe I went across his property twice that I can remember. As for beating against the trailer, I have no idea where that come from.
All right, what did you learn from your victim accountability class?
Okay. Speaking with each other, we come to terms with the gravity of that the impact would occur, I should say, the gravity that it would put on the trash. And I had been looking at the films, or I should say, DVDs, and one in particular where a young guy, the guy took he held him up. He was about 15 too. And I put myself in his shoes and also the victim. And it hurt my heart that the victim had to go through that much torment, especially when a kid, it was just a kid running wild, no home training, get with other guys and supply.
Can you tell them more what you learned in the victim accountability class?
Okay.
I think you're going a little off course. Let's go back to the victim accountability class.
We're trying to make amends, as I said, to the Trash family. I asked them, please forgive me for the horror that I caused them now and then, especially then. It should have never happened, and I'm very sorry that it did. I should have never been on this property those 2 times.
Gotcha.
But as I said, I don't know anything about beating on the house. Okay.
What else did you learn from victims accountability class?
Okay.
Right.
To continue, the victim awareness showed me that living soberly and staying out of harm's way, and getting with somebody that has a better report than I had.
Okay. I think I got that. Okay, okay, well, in Chicago, what did you do for the 9 years you were gone? Were you working somewhere?
Yes, sir.
What were you
My
doing?
first job was a simple washing dishes at a nursing home. And when I got through the city's where they supply you with a job and they take the finances out your paycheck, jobs like that. And let's see, my last job was working at a steel company, and that took me a long ways. And I always kept a job when if I decided to move on. That this washing job, the owner told me, he said, you got a long life. He knew what age I was. He said, you got a long ways to go. And at below minimum wages, this is not the place for you. So I decided to go on, and the next day look for another job. I got it, but no problem. They at the time, jobs then wasn't, it was very easy to get. So I moved on.
And so you worked the whole time you were in Chicago?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
And you had a family?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you applied, what did you apply for, a security guard or a law enforcement position?
Law enforcement position.
That's why the illegal thing. Okay, I have no further questions. I'll turn it over to my colleague.
Ms. Farah?
Tell me about your day right now. What do you do every day in prison?
Repair lawnmowers, weed eaters, and anything small engines, which I was gonna get when I get out of here. Open up a little small engine repair shop, earn a living. Probably be doing that even on the side, another job. So I could do my best to keep a job to support myself.
Do you keep to yourself in prison, kind of?
Yes, I do. I've been able to do that for a long while. Just being a loner. My principal, Miss Holloway, she said for the records that I had once before, when I was 15, when I came before the court, she said that I was a loner, and but she was right. After looking at myself, and that's how I've been able to survive, being off to myself, and doing good most of the time.
Thank you. That's it.
So, Mr. Jenkins, you mentioned you have some health issues. Are you followed by mental health
Yes.
on a regular basis?
I would say so. Yes, ma'am.
Do you take any medications?
Yes. For I have a blood pressure problem. That's not uncommon for someone at my age. So
Hey, let's see. So, Ms. Rubion, would you like to make your presentation?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Jenkins has been here a long time, and the Trask family has been hurting, real hurt for a long time. And we acknowledge that that pain is real and that pain is not going to disappear in their life. We understand and acknowledge their opposition, and it's understandable, and that opposition deserves respect. Nothing in this process or in Mr. Jenkins' request to be released on parole supervision is meant to minimize their suffering or minimize their loss. What he is here to do is express his accountability, and that is accepting the consequences of what's done and facing him. Granting parole for Mr. Jenkins today does not undo his conviction. It does not undo the time he served or undo the pain he has caused. It is about recognizing that Mr. Jenkins has now faced his actions. I've represented Mr. Jenkins for many years now, and I would encourage this board, if you would have the opportunity to question him again, to ask him about sitting in the victims awareness and accountability class, and for what was likely the first time in his life being given an opportunity to listen to other people in a facilitated setting talk about their crime and the impact that that had on other people. I have seen a shift in how Mr. Jenkins approaches it and thinks about and processes what his actions have caused. He has deep accountability and genuine remorse for what he's done. He doesn't excuse it or minimize it. He has shown his maturity, his rehabilitation, and that he is low risk. He has served very many years, over 40 years since the 80s. He is 70 years old. We know based on his age that he's aged out of criminal behavior. We know that. He's acknowledged his escape. He has pled guilty. He has taken responsibility for that. And he has been a very good inmate since he has been back in Angola, with very few write-ups in the many years that he's been here, with almost 20 years of no write-ups. He's maintained steady employment. He came here as a juvenile, and we know that juveniles' minds are not formed all the way. We know that they are capable of rehabilitation and change, and we see that in Mr. Jenkins. We also know that when Mr. Jenkins pled guilty, that is why, under the 610 changes in the law, Act 544, that he is eligible for parole, to honor that bargain that was made under the 10-6 laws. He has a plan. Parole Project has agreed. We have the letter here. You heard Mr. Huntley, to give long-term housing and support to Mr. Jenkins. They have a proven track record of helping transition people out of prison. Mr. LEROY knows, he's been here a long time. He knows that the world looks different and that he will rely on Parole Project to help him navigate that, to get the papers and the housing and the resources. He has the commitment from the Parole Project. He has great remorse and accountability for what happened. Again, we don't minimize the Trask's pain. It is real. It is not going to disappear. But Mr. Jenkins has changed himself, and he has earned the opportunity to live differently and carry his life forward as a parolee outside of the gate. I'm available to ask any questions the committee may have for me. I welcome them.
No questions. All right, thank you, Ms. Rubio. We appreciate it. I think that that concludes our interview, and I believe we're prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Jenkins, you had your 9 years out, and you did good while you were out. You wasn't arrested, obviously. But, due to the pain that the victim's family is going through, they escaped and taken hostages, and my vote, strong law enforcement opposition, my vote today is to deny.
Mr. Byron?
I concur with Mr. Freeman for the same reasons. Deny.
Right, Mr. Jenkins, I'm concerned about your understanding of true understanding of the impact that you've had on this family. I appreciate what your attorney said. It looks like you did that victim accountability training just last year in 24, and you weren't real good at describing to us what happened. You say you think what happened. We know what happened. We have all the records. So, based on the opposition we've seen today here with us, and that fits in the record by law enforcement, I agree with my colleagues. My vote today also is to deny you parole today. Good luck to you, sir.
And a denial, a swift denial at that. And I am curious to know how y'all feel about it. I mean, it really is different when you can actually hear the victim's statements, the quality of the statements, where they talk about what seems to be, even though he's just a child at the time, 15, but still like tormenting them and stalking them and banging against the shed and getting him to, and then ultimately killing him for money. It's like there are two different pictures painted, and it's hard. I'll tell you, for me, this one is just like one of the hardest ones. Then you find out he escapes. There's a lot of things that don't add up, though. They're saying that he had a family there. Well, where's the family? Like, why is it not? Did you got married? You had kids? Did I just miss it? It's possible I missed it, but do they talk about that? Do they articulate it? Where are your kids? Why do you not have a relationship with them? These are things that just make me almost like raise additional red flags, because where there's smoke, there's fire. And again, it makes you wonder. We have seen enough sociopathic type people. Why was he becoming a police officer? Like, was there anything more sinister going on? And I know that I'm just totally pulling at straws and maybe randomness here, and to be totally out of left field on this one. I know. Okay, you're here. Let's read the statements of the case. If you would just want to get some additional information, because of the defendant's guilty plea, many of the circumstances of the crime are undeveloped. Evidence on the record demonstrates that early July 1971, the defendant went to the home of Edward Trask, the victim, in Norwood, Louisiana, to burglarize the home. The defendant was unarmed at this time. After Mr. Trask saw the defendant, he shot at the defendant, who ran away. So Mr. Trask had a firearm, shot at the defendant, who ran away. Then, now we're talking about July 3rd, which I guess we don't know, is that like a day later? Is it 2 days later? Was it the same day? On July 3rd, 1971, Mr. Trask again found the defendant on his property. The defendant was armed with a .22 caliber, and Mr. Trask had a .22 caliber revolver. Mr. Trask accosted the defendant, and when he did, the defendant raised his rifle. Mr. Trask first fired several shots at the defendant, none of which struck the defendant. The defendant then fired at Mr. Trask, striking him twice. Mr. Trask's wife, who observed the confrontation between the two men, got into her car and drove to find help. Though the defendant tried to stop her, he did not shoot at her. The defendant then turned to Mr. Trask, took his wallet containing several $100s, which would have been quite a big score in 1970, and fled to Mississippi. Mr. Trask died before help arrived. A few days later, the defendant was apprehended near Woodville, Mississippi. After he pled guilty, he was sentenced and began serving his sentence. The defendant escaped from Louisiana, subsequently fled to Chicago, Illinois, remained in Chicago for nearly a decade until he was apprehended by authorities after applying to become a Chicago police officer. He was returned to prison in Louisiana. Now, and that's all. That's the only bit of information that we can get here. They don't talk about the escape, which was also interesting, where it said what he kidnapped people in the escape. We don't have information on that, right? It really, it's a sloppy, just you almost want more of a narrative, more of what you really didn't get it, right? I mean, what's interesting here is that in this, just with this little bit of information, it says that a 15-year-old is going around his house and he gets shot at. He's going around unarmed. And it doesn't say why he's going there, right? It doesn't say like, is it possible that he was going there for who knows what reason, and then he gets shot at and he gets real pissed off. He steals a rifle because that's what he did. He stole it, goes back there to confront him, and it's just like this, a dumb 15-year-old being egotistical, or is there more stuff going on where they're talking about stalking and they're talking about like tormenting and then like kind of planning this. It is so, and he does himself no favors. He's unable to articulate. He's unable to talk. And I put this at the fault of the attorneys. I really do. He's been working with them for so long, but it just makes you wonder. Unless you just, it's like coming with something better. Just like you know what the process is like. You're the parole project. Come in with a game plan. Instead, it's like, what did you learn? What did you learn at victim awareness? Answer what you learned at victim awareness. Like, tell them what you learned at victim awareness. God. And it is weird though, even with all of this and all the chance at rehearsal, maybe you just can't teach someone to just fake empathy. But it's like, I wish I could take it back. If I could, I would. I should have never done it. It's just it's one of those weird cases. It really is. And there's so many question marks. It's hard not to feel bad for him. But I guess what it comes down to, I think really what it comes down to is even with all the help, he still seems to be unable to articulate the truth. He seems unable to show empathy. He seems unable to. And then the bottom line, where I always go with these cases is, all right, well, you can have empathy for him and say parole, but then what about the empathy for the victims who you can see are very clearly still suffering from this? That's where it always comes down for me. To choose him means you are choosing him over the victims and re-victimizing the victims. And as much as I do want to root for him, that's where I draw my line on. My empathy stays for the victims. Can you even imagine just putting yourself in the victim's shoes of your husband and the wife? Your husband just got killed by this person right in front of your eyes. Why? And you just lose everything. Crazy. It really is. Thank you, Annan, for pointing out the hearing. Thank you, Sir Richard, for making it easy to connect in the spreadsheets. And Lady Holly actually had pulled some research on this case when Lady Holly was still with us. So we will read her random fact of the day because we can. And doing that, we can bring Lady Holly back with us every time we do that. So a person may only carry a slingshot if they have the appropriate license. Speaking of weapons, safety, another Alaskan law states it's unlawful for any person other than law enforcement officer to carry concealed about his person in any manner or revolver or pistol or other firearm or knife other than an ordinary pocket knife or a dirk or a dagger, slingshot, metal knuckles, or an instrument by use of which injury could be inflicted upon the person, property, another, except that another person is possession of a valid state Alaska concealed weapons carry permit. Oh, it's a mouthful. May carry a weapon as allowed that permit. I mean, I guess it's saying you just can't carry a concealed weapon without a permit, but yes, it is funny that they include slingshot in that list. Just another random law. Okay. All right. Love you guys. With that, I'll let you go.
You can forgive, but you still have to suffer the consequences of your actions. Forgiveness doesn't erase what you did. And God can use him in jail. That's wonderful.
Excuse me for crying, but it's so tough. But as tough as it is on me, his grandchildren, his daughter, they suffered way worse than that. It has never stopped.